Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. And with respect to the subsidies, which may soon be going away, one takeaway might be that if you get into business with the government in some way because you are relying not on the markets and on the fundamental economics of the product to make the thing go, the next government may decide those subsidies are no longer in the public interest. And notable, Monet, that Elon Musk was on Capitol Hill on Thursday, was asked about whether the incoming Republican Congress should get rid of the $7,500 tax credit for certain EVs. And he said, I think we should get rid of all credits. And who knows, the legislation from the Republicans will be next year, how far it will go in paring back the Inflation Reduction Act, the subsidies in the CHIPS Act. But it certainly seems like it's a possibility.
I think that Elon Musk is definitely right or very close to right as a matter of principle. It's possible that even real fiscal hawks and free market conservatives would look at the whole sweep of federal credits and find a few that are indispensable or that are very economically productive. But by and large, we have created a government in which there are way too many companies that are way too dependent on a variety of these different credits. And they don't seem to be economically productive on the whole because they're often incentivizing companies to invest in products, in lines of business that would not actually be productive or profitable without that government support. And so the idea of reducing those credits is one that makes sense for the economy. It's also one that Republicans are going to have to do in order to fund the tax bill that they're proposing to pass in the coming year. Of course, they're going to be trying to pass this bill through the reconciliation process, which means that all of the legislation has to be revenue neutral over the 10-year window. They're not looking to increase taxes, which means that they're going to have to curtail spending. And a lot of these credits, particularly the ones that were recently passed through President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, are going to be the first place they look. It's going to be a difficult process, though, because a lot of these credits have ended up becoming very popularly used and very much appreciated in a lot of the red districts and red states. A lot of investment, for example, in clean energy is going into some of these Sunbelt states that have Republican members in the House and Republican senators. And so it's a very big pot of money that they're going to be looking at, particularly the electric vehicle credits. I think you'll see a lot of consensus among Senate Republicans, especially, that that's one place to look, curtailing that a $7,500 credit for new electric vehicle purchases. But I do think, especially in the House, because Republicans have such a narrow margin there are going to be a lot of them who are very reluctant to curb some of these credits, which is going to be a huge headache for Mike Johnson in terms of trying to line up everyone's incentives to vote for this piece of legislation. And it potentially is going to reduce the amount of revenue that they have on the table that then can be directed toward things like extending the corporate tax cut, of course, is permanent, but extending the income tax cuts, restoring some of these business tax reductions and things like that. And so they absolutely should be eyeing the credits. I hope that Elon Musk and his associates are helpful in selecting the ones that are the lowest hanging fruit to eliminate, but I wouldn't be too optimistic about very easily getting Republicans on board with curtailing a lot of the ones that deserve to be cut.
Alicia, we'll give you the last word, but many consequential economic decisions will be on President Trump's desk on January 20th and thereafter. One we haven't mentioned yet is his promise of tariffs, not only on particularly U.S. trading partners, but across the board, universal tariffs, 10%, 20%, he sometimes has said. And maybe he will think twice about that. I hope he does. My read of the 2024 election results is that voters remembered the Trump economy. They didn't like the Biden inflation. And he has a mandate, above all, to bring back wage growth and continue to get this inflation under control. And so I think that's what voters and history will judge him on.
Right. And I think with the tariffs, I think they are largely a negotiating tactic. And I'm not even sure he's going to try to get really large concessions out of trading partners like Mexico and Canada and Japan. I think he's going to try to get nominal or them to rhetorically say, this is what we're doing. We are investing in the U.S. or Mexico. We are taking these actions to further restrict migration, so that Trump can kind of trumpet that around saying, see, I got this. You recall with Apple, he imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, which he did, and he did follow through on that. But then he ended up waiving the tariffs for iPhone imports at Tim Cook's beseeching, in part because Tim Cook promised a new factory in the U.S. and actually it wasn't, and didn't end up actually being a new factory. It was already there or planned, but Trump was able to take credit for that. And I think that's what Trump really wants to do most of all, is to be able to take credit for new investment and an economic resurgence in the U.S., regardless of whether it's actually tariffs or create that.
Thank you, Alicia and Monet. Thank you all for listening. You can email us at pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back next week with another edition of Potomac Watch.